Hello, and welcome back to the Nourish with Purpose podcast. I hope you're having a great Wednesday, or whenever you're listening to today's episode. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I'm going to do a little poll at the end of today's episode, if you're listening on Spotify, for you to share with me how you're doing, because I feel like we don't ask people that enough. Is truly, how are you doing? Something I'm trying to be much more intentional about when I talk to people as well, because I think it's easy to keep things bottled up. And even as I start recording, I have so many things to share with you, but I can't share any of them with you. And I know there's nothing more annoying than when somebody says that and they're like, oh, just wait, like I will in the future. But I will. I'll tell you in the future. There's just a lot of things that very few people know. And I'm really excited to be able to share a little bit more openly about some things going on in my life in the coming weeks. So I know it's not coming this week, but all the juicy, fun, exciting details will be coming shortly. And I feel like that's honestly so rude of me to even say anything, but I just honestly can't keep it to myself. I have to tell you there's something I need to tell you. I just can't tell you what it is. But don't fear, I will shortly. I'm just so bad at keeping secrets. I think that's my problem. Whether it's work related, personal related, I just love to share what's going on. And more so probably to the people closest to me. I'm not so much just publicly share all the wins and successes and all the great things going on in my life outside of just my inner kind of circle. But it is just hard to keep a secret. And I'm good at keeping other people's secrets, just not my own. So that'll be coming. I know, not fun or nice of me to do that. But I just wanted to remind you as well that if you are enjoying the podcast, you should send this episode over to a friend, because I'm going to be sharing 10 things that I have learned recently. And I've talked about it over and over again. But July was really a month for me to reevaluate, slow down, take time away from technology, and really just learn and absorb information. And so I think that these will be really interesting, and honestly, very few of them are related. Things that I've learned recently in the last month, okay? Before that though, let's do a catch up. Let me share with you what I can. This last weekend, I went to my friend Jordan's bachelorette party. If you are not from Nebraska, this is irrelevant, but if you are, or if you're ever wanting to visit Nebraska, which I'm sure few people probably do, but we were in the Ashland area. And if you're looking for a date night or honestly, not even a date night, a date day, or to go with some friends somewhere, you need to go to Ashland. It is the most magical little town. It feels like you're stepping into a Hallmark movie. And I was talking to my grandma about this as well. And she's like, isn't Ashland kind of like that little mountainish town? It looks like a mountain town. If you know Nebraska, you know we have no mountains anywhere near us. We have sandhills. That's the closest thing we're getting. But it does. There's just cute little shops. There's bakeries. There's an ice cream shop, and they're getting another one. There's a coffee shop. There's a home decor shop. And it really is just a magical little spot to be. So I was at that bachelorette party. Again, like I mentioned, we went into Ashland. And this is how you know I'm a total geek and love to spend time in the kitchen, is we went to this home store, and everything in there is so beautiful to look at, and it looks so perfect and aesthetic all together. But when you separate some items, it's it's just not the same. Well, I did find some little gems. There was this one bag, and actually my friend Brooklyn sent me a photo of it last time she was in the store. And then when we went again, they had it for sale, and I'm like, I have to get it. On it says grow flowers and raise chickens. And it truly is just so spot on. Who knew that sentence could honestly just describe me perfectly? And so I got this cute little bag that has that on there. I paid way too much for it, but that's besides the point. And then I also, this is something I'd been looking for, but with our kitchen, I'm trying to find very intentional pieces. So I don't just want to throw stuff up on the walls that sounded really disgusting. I just don't want to put things up on our walls or on the counters that have no meaning or no significance to them. I'm trying to get antiques or really just intentional items. So this item is very, very tiny, but I really was excited about it. It's a little like wooden circle container that has a lid on top. And I think it's made for, and this is what I'm using it for, to put flaky sea salt in. So then you can take the lid off and then like sprinkle sea salt on anything you're making. It just keeps it nice and concealed, but also in something waterproof in a sense. And I also got, I'm trying to think of what the brand is, but it's a super high quality flaky sea salt that they had for sale there. Starts with an M and it won't come to mind, but I was really excited to see that they had that. And that is just like a little touch of what I'm adding to our kitchen. And I know that might seem very insignificant, but I really want to make that a space that feels warm and inviting and smells good. I'm really struggling with that right now. I just feel like with our house being older and when it's so hot outside, like it's been above 95 for the last week, it just permeates this smell that I can't handle. And so with that, I am trying different things to make it smell warm and cozy. And of course, baking makes it smell so much better. That's not something I've been super into recently. I love spending time in the kitchen, but I think having that space feel finished is just going to feel so good. Something we did, and I don't remember if I've mentioned this before. If not, or if I have, sorry, but above our stovetop, we made a little indention for where a microwave would go. And I don't know why we did this. I think we did it because in our old kitchen, it was so dingy. I mean, it was just dingy. It was old and it just needed renovated. But there was a microwave above the stove and we were keeping the same appliances. So we're like, well, we'll just, do the same thing. Well, we rarely use a microwave. And I'm not an anti-microwave person. I've had people come into our home and be like, oh, yeah, I'm guessing you don't even have a microwave. And yes, I'm like very woo and a lot more woo than I honestly like to probably show people. I do still use a microwave. There are some things where I will never not use a microwave for. One is to cook sweet corn. Another is to cook ground beef that's frozen. And another one is to steam vegetables. I know microwaves aren't wonderful, but I will continue to use it for those things. Those basic functions I want and need a microwave for. But like I was saying, there's that spot then above our stovetop that's kind of a little gap. So I like have a very specific thing that I want to put there to make it not look so funny to have that gap because we have cupboards above it. Eventually, I know we're going to do a hood vent above our stove, especially probably when we get new appliances, is get like a custom hood vent. But for right now, we're balling on a budget. So I want to get some sort of like plate rack, and it can have like those brass hooks where I can like hang different utensils from. I've got a vision and I can't find the vision anywhere else, which is how I know it's a good vision. Well, maybe I should test that actually, but how I assume it's a good vision, because I feel like so often you look at kitchens and they look cookie cutter. Like you look at my kitchen and I'll admit it's probably not the most unique, right? I've got cream cabinets. I've got a white countertop. I mean, it's so pretty. I love our countertop and I love our whole kitchen. And then I have a brass faucet. I have a farm kitchen sink with like a ribboned front, which is pretty unique. But I also had an ad for Walmart pop up on Pinterest recently. And I was like, wait, is that our kitchen? Oh, no, it's just a Walmart ad. I'm like, how disrespectful, honestly, to have a Walmart ad look just like your custom built kitchen. Besides the point, it's fine. I got really intentional pieces like for our faucet. I ordered one off of Etsy that was handmade, brass, and it's hard, truly, it's hard to keep clean without spots. So that is one thing I'll preface on that. But I do love our kitchen and I love the accents, and I feel like my whole vision board has really come together with it. Now we just need to finish it up. Our pantry isn't done yet. And there's just some things I'm like, we just need to get this done. Like I'm so sick and tired of looking at a kitchen that's not finished, fully functioning. It's beautiful. I love it, but it's just not complete. And so that's just something that, a long-winded way of saying I'm trying to be intentional with how I decorate the space and trying to use my imagination and bring in unique objects. If you don't follow JC Marie Smith on Instagram or on YouTube. She is also co-host of the What We Said podcast, which I listen to faithfully. But she renovated her kitchen recently, and she did this beautiful like green countertop with like a lighter kind of like dusty wood cabinets and then brass finishes like on the knobs, and then she's doing brass outlets. And that was like, oh yeah, I know those things are going to be expensive, but to do brass outlets instead of those plastic ones, I feel like totally just like up levels the space. So things I'll continue to focus on, but that shop was just magical. So if you're ever in Ashland, go there, go to the Farner Bakery as well, get their focaccia bread. The best thing I've honestly ever eaten. Their matcha, best matcha I've ever had. I tried to recreate it when I got home, and their matcha was just so green, which I know is a sign, if it's real 100% like pure grade matcha, it's a sign of quality. So I'm assuming it was just a very high quality matcha. It was so dark in color, which just chef's kiss, perfect. But the bachelorette party, coming back to that, it was so much fun. We were on a lake, so it was very relaxing. I felt like it was kind of just like a deep breath, which usually bachelorette parties are not that way. I love them and they're fun, but it's not usually like a time to relax and just talk to people. And so that was just something that it was refreshing. It was nice to be there. We were there Thursday, which actually Ashland had a horrible storm kind of go through with like 100-mile-an-hour winds, something bizarre like that. And so we actually, when we got there on Thursday, had no power, and we were in this beautiful lake house, like, but no power. And there were supposed to be like 19-ish of us there. And so we were like, what if we do not get power? Because some people were saying they weren't getting power for 4 to 7 days or running water. Like I saw my friend posted on her Instagram that they are on day like 5 of no running water. And I just cannot fathom that. And so thankfully we had gone to a Mexican restaurant in Ashland. And then by the time we got back, the power was on, which is just amazing. That truly was like a highlight, because we're like, okay, thank goodness. Like we can go to the bathroom, we can shower, we can do what we need to. And so, yeah, we just hung out. And I mean, a group of people that aren't my own personal closest friends, right? Like, of course, the bride and her sister and my friend Kate, very close to them, and some of the other girls, but some people I'd never met before. So it's always just fun to see the one thing we have in common, which is the bride, right? For any bachelorette party, that's what you have in common. And everything typically just goes smoothly. Like it was a fun group of people to be around. I did realize though, that I just do not have it in me anymore. Like I kind of throwing it back to college, I was able to stay out late. Like when we were thinking about going to hang out with people, it was like 9 o'clock and we're like, oh, that's still pretty early. At 9 p.m. At 9 p.m., I am crawling into bed these days, or at least I'm laying on the couch or reading my book. But to be going out at 9 p.m., it just is like, gosh, I just don't have it in me. So I stayed up until about like 12 or 1 the first night, I believe. And that was something I was very proud of myself for, because I can't tell you the last time I have been up that late. And I think, you know, some people just still got it in them, and I just must be old and married and boring, and I just can't hang anymore. But nonetheless, it was fun. And the next day, then they were going to go out, and I decided to come home just so I could spend Saturday at home with Nate and kind of just get some things done that I needed to. And when I was crawling into bed that night, again, they were going out, and I'm like, gosh, like these people, I applaud it. I applaud you if you're able to stay up that late, because for me, 10:15, that is my absolute cap. But it was a good time. Again, I know I've said that 100 times, but it was so fun. It's so fun to see people that you don't see all the time, and just to hang out with them and catch up on what's going on. Okay, so outside of personal catch-ups, I also recently got certified in functional lab testing, which is something I am celebrating so hard because it was intense, and it's been such a long time since I felt really dumb. Not to say or put myself down and say I am dumb, but to feel dumb. I was kind of, when I was going through the certification, thinking back to college and sitting in anatomy and physiology and just being like, I don't know a single thing coming out of this man's mouth. That was when I felt the most dumb. And it all just kind of, those emotions came back up when I was getting certified. There's just so much to it, and it's a different language. And luckily I had my friend Lyndon to kind of walk me through it. She'd been through the course before me. And so thankfully I had her to kind of talk through things with. But I also realized, so I was like listening to the lectures, vigorously taking notes. In about 5 modules in, I learned that the PDF of the presentation that this Emily Morrow was talking about could be downloaded it, and then I could have uploaded it to my iPad and not taken any notes. And so, I was chronically taking notes. I'm like, how does this lady talk so fast? I was just like freaking out. I'm like, I'm never going to learn this. But luckily we got that all figured out. We could take a deep breath and finally got that certification. Still something I will actively be learning and evolving what I know. But if you're like, what is functional lab testing? What does that mean? Basically, this means that I can order lab tests for clients or those who inquire about getting lab work done through a different program. You get your blood drawn. They run the various tests that you decide to order or we decide to order together, and then I analyze that. And how this is different than just going to your doctor and having them say like, hey, yep, your labs look normal. I think really for me, the wake up call to get this done was I have a client who has rheumatoid arthritis, and she was telling me in our initial session that she had recently gotten blood work done, and her doctor had told her that all of her inflammation markers looked totally normal. And that just raised a huge red flag for me, because I'm like, this person is actively having puffiness and swelling in her wrists, actively feeling so sore and miserable that it's hard to get out of bed or to move her body. You cannot tell me that things look normal. And this is not to put down that doctor or any other doctors that quickly look at lab results, because they're doing what they were trained to do, and they quite frankly do not have the time. When you think about going into the doctor's office, think about how quick that experience usually is, right? They have a certain amount of clients they are seeing that day, and this is at no diss to them. But when I will look at lab work, it takes me about an hour or over an hour to assess what's going on and kind of draw conclusions to what this person needs support with. It's a huge, huge difference. And if you think about the health of the population, the more unhealthy our population gets, the more normal your blood markers or your labs are going to look, right? Because the norm is based off of averages. So you can see where that can get kind of dicey, because your normal might be really low on the normal spectrum, but they're not telling you that because it still fits within that range. You are maybe in your 20s, you're at a good weight, you eat okay, you exercise. When you go in, you're going to be the least of their concern, and I shouldn't even really say that, because you are a concern and they do care about you. But looking at you and hearing what you're going through, everything sounds pretty typical. And so this is really for the people who are like, I know something is off in this area of my health, or I just feel toxic and I don't know why. This is where this comes in, because these numbers are consistent for the most part, and they are not changing based off of averages. These markers are reliable, and they also are very cautiously looked at. I'm not able to diagnose anything, right? And I wouldn't want to either, but I'm able to recommend a new protocol that would be individualized to you based off of what your blood work is showing. And there's all these different things you can add on. The basic wellness panel is like a urinalysis, and I think over 18 different tests they run. And this is not to like pitch this to you, really. I'm just sharing this because it's so fresh and it's so exciting to me that I just like want to share everything with you, because I think it's something that I noticed was a need within my clients. I use the inflammation assessment, which you'll know I talk about a lot with clients, or I talk a lot about when I do that with clients, is the inflammation assessment, because it gives us a place to start. It shows me where inflammation is showing up in your body based off of a series of questions. But what if you had blood work to legitify? Is that even? I don't even know if that's a word, but legitimize. I think that's it. What is going on in your body, and I can see that firsthand. And so being able to do that is like such an honor. It's something I'm so excited about, and I truly am just so passionate about what I do. And I think as soon as I talk about it, I could ramble forever and ever and ever, because I'm just so passionate about helping people feel better and feel normal and not feel like there's something wrong in their body, but they don't know what it is. So it's just something that I saw as a need for myself to get certified in, especially with the clients that I am working with. I feel like they've continued to get more extreme, the cases. And I mean, that's a blessing, right? Because it's pushing me to push what I know and to continue to learn and evolve what I'm doing. And every year, and this is something I would recommend, every year, try to do something that pushes you to learn more. And this doesn't have to be related to your occupation. For me, it always seems to be, but I probably like 2 to 3 times a year invest in education or mentorship or different courses to continue to learn. And I think that is something I could not recommend enough. It has made such a huge difference in just the pace that I'm taking things. I feel like it forces me to slow down and absorb information rather than just like rushing through things without being intentional. I want to be so intentional with every interaction I have, with every client I work with every person that just DMs me and asks me questions, with every podcast episode I share. Like, I want to be able to be intentional and be present, and you have to slow down in order to do that, which is why learning and continuous learning is something, again, I just couldn't recommend enough. But I think enough about that. Let's jump into how I'm nourishing my mind, body, and spirit. This is a segment we always do on the podcast because I believe that whole body health happens when all 3 of those are in alignment. So how I am nourishing my mind is not expecting myself to conquer the day every single day. And that is hard because I love a to-do list. You know that by now. I love checking things off a list. But I think in more recent, maybe months, I've realized that my body does not need to do 1,000 things in a day. And it's actually not beneficial for my mind to have to like jump between 6 different things. And that's something my husband has always kind of pointed out to me since the beginning, is like, Bailey, your brain is in 6 places at least multiple times a day, right? Like, okay, I'm baking sourdough for somebody today while I'm also meeting with my mentor, and then I'm meeting with a client later, and then I'm doing blood work certification, and then I'm going to go out for a walk because I need to get movement in today, and I need to water my flowers, and I need to take care of the chickens, which I'm like, these are not deep things. These are things I love to do, but you can see how my brain is like pinging between 6 different things all the time, and it's overwhelming. And so really kind of categorizing my day has probably helped that as well, of just taking my morning to slow down, do my devotional, move my body, eat a good breakfast, do some lymphatic drainage, and then I transition into my work, which is like typically 9 to 2, and then I transition into maybe leading exercise classes, or after that I might have coaching sessions. But ultimately in my evenings, I really try to, after supper, not have anything on the calendar. So make supper and then go outside, do yard work, do like water my garden, water my flowers, just kind of bulking my day with like a significant morning, bulk of the day, and then evening. Because I think it's really hard not to like have your brain go all over the place. At least I know for me it is. How I'm nourishing my body is doing my legs up on the wall after a long day or after an exercise class. I lead 5:45 a.m. Pilates and strength classes 2 times a week. And so when I get home, and even while I'm doing my devotional, I'll put my feet up on the wall and just let that blood flow happen. I always think any way you can get blood flow back to your kidneys and your liver, that's helping your body detox. So I love to do that. I notice at the end of the day, sometimes my feet or my legs are a little puffy. And sometimes your legs just feel like they're like 20 pounds heavier than they are, especially if it's hot outside and you go for a walk. So elevating my feet, it's my favorite part of the day, or one of my favorite parts of the day, truthfully. Love doing that. And then how I'm nourishing my spirit is I've started utilizing the Bible app for my daily devotional. And I actually want to read the one that we had this would have been yesterday. It is from Colossians 3:23 and 24. This is the NIV version, but it says, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving." And that was just the best reminder. The prayer then connected to that said, "God, only you determine my worth and my value. You have given me the ability to work and to do it well. So when I feel overwhelmed, burnt out, frustrated, or uninspired, please help me to stay focused on you. Remind me that you are the one I work for, and you are the one who gives me a future and a hope. In Jesus' name, amen." So good. The Bible app is so good, and I feel like I hadn't utilized it. I've recommended it to clients before when I'm like, just get a snippet of that in your morning, right? Like, I think when you maybe haven't been doing something like a devotional or reading your Bible for a while, you just need something to like spark that connection again, and dive right into it. So really like utilizing the Bible app again. If you have requests or recommendations, not requests, for a devotional, please send that my way as well, however you can reach me, because I've just finished up the one by Lisa Turkhurst, I believe is how you pronounce her last name, and I really did enjoy it. I'm just looking for something else now to kind of connect with my Bible reading time, so send those recommendations my way. All right, so let's jump into the bulk of today's episode. Like I said, I'm talking about 10 things I've learned recently. Ultimately, I wanted to share this because I've spent so much time reflecting this last month. And these are things, like I mentioned, they're not all very related. They're going to seem a little random to you. And I really think that's just going to show you more into how my brain functions, where my brain goes, and just, I don't know, my brain sometimes is all over the place, and that's kind of how these are. But I hope you find little bits of gold in these lessons, and hopefully I can prevent you from frustrations or confusion, or give you some direction on what you could look more into. So we're just going to start out with number one, okay? So number one is that your body isn't a machine. And you might be thinking, duh, like we know this. Bailey, you preach this all the time, right? Right. But even me, who preaches this to people all the time, not even preaches, just mentions this to people all the time, and encourages people to rest and gently move their body. It's really easy for me to get caught up in the go, go, go and not actually relaxing until your body's actually forced to relax. And then you're like, this feels pretty comfortable. So then you start to recognize, like, I actually function better when I'm not a machine and when I'm not trying to do everything. And this is kind of stemmed from that workout program I know I mentioned, because I really did love it. It was just honestly way too much for me. It was in the app Playbook, and let me pull it up here. It was with JM Fitness, and she has a 12-week shred gym program. And not that I'm all into getting shredded, right? And we talked about that before, but I really just wanted to get into a heavy weight focused strength training workout. Well, my body, with my back injuries that I still have, I just don't live with the pain of them, right? 2 fractured vertebrae and a bulging disc. I cannot truthfully do 80% of her workouts. I can do upper body, but even that sometimes feels uncomfortable. And I think that is the problem with expecting your body to function like everybody else's, is we are bio-individual, meaning that what works for somebody is not going to work for you, or it might not work for you the same way. That's why workout programs are so difficult, and why, of course, investing in a personal trainer, I'm sure, is a great thing to do. For me, that feels silly because I am a personal trainer and I do lead exercise classes. And so for the most part, I always am just instructing myself on what to do because I know what my body feels comfortable with. But I'm not going to lie, it's really frustrating when you want to get super strong or you want to see changes in certain areas, but your body has a physical limitation that is preventing that from happening. And that's not to say that you have to do deadlift or you have to do squat or you have to do lat pulls to feel strong. But for me, I've always loved those exercises. My body just doesn't love them. And when you injure yourself because you act like your body's a machine, then you're forced to take a huge step back and rebuild. And that is something that I feel like I've been much more intentional with, is even on the days when I'm not leading workout classes, I'm walking, I'm gently moving my body, I'm doing pelvic floor exercises. I'm not expecting my body to always perform 100% because it's just not possible. All right. Moving to number 2, you don't have to wear clothes that don't feel good. And I feel like for me, stretchy pants, thank you COVID, really have just felt the most comfortable when I'm at home, working at home, sitting at a computer. And that's not to say that I'm just like letting myself go, wearing stretchy pants, but why would I force myself to sit in an outfit that feels uncomfortable? Right? And I just, maybe that seems like a no-brainer, but I think getting very cute athletic wear has helped that. I got this really cute open back set from Amazon. It's like a jumper, kind of like tennis skirt situation. It's so comfortable and it looks put together and it looks cute, but it still feels comfortable and it doesn't like dig into my waist. Like I hate things on my stomach and I always have. Like that's an area, hate to be touched. My stomach, I hate when it's touched. I hate to have clothes that are tight on my stomach. And I really, getting maybe very deep really quickly, that's always been something I've been very self-conscious about. I've always truthfully in the past hated my stomach. Every time I walk past a mirror, that would be what I would look at. And so it's something that I think because of that reason, I've always hated. And I shared this on my first episode ever, I believe. And if you've listened to that, you would know. But even when I think back to being about like 5 or 6 years old, I remember looking in the mirror and thinking, wow, you would look so much better if you didn't have these little fat handles on the side. Like when you've got that chub and you're, so cute, but at the moment I didn't think that was cute. And you have those little like love handles, that's just the type of build I was as a kid. And then I remember getting into 5th grade and I would wear like 3 tank tops under my t-shirts because I noticed it would make my belly button disappear, like that little indentation of your belly button. And I felt like everything looked smoother. I didn't look like I had, those little hip things. And I think it's really maybe sad, and maybe you're like, oh, that's really sad to openly admit or to have dealt with. To me, it doesn't feel sad anymore because I just know it's part of my journey and it makes me have the ability to relate to people. And I think relate to people at all ages because I think from such a young age, that area has always been something I've been self-conscious of. But even just hearing how other people talk about their bodies or hearing how family will talk about their bodies, it seems like it's almost genetic that, and maybe it's just part of being a woman, but I feel like in certain families, and I notice this with clients too, if I would work with their mom and then work with them, like there's certain parts of their body that they don't love that you can tell their daughter then doesn't love. And I think it's just really interesting to see how that translates then as we're adults and to see that heal. Like for me, I feel like that's very much healed. Not that it's not something I don't struggle with occasionally, but with that just historically being something I was self-conscious of, I still just don't like to wear tight clothes in my stomach area. And like I mentioned, wear what you feel comfortable in. And that's just something I've learned. You can look cute and be comfortable. You can look cute and that doesn't mean, or you can be comfortable and that doesn't mean you're like letting yourself go, right? I think there's a great balance to find within that. Kind of tying into this too is doing your makeup and hair can truly make you feel like a brand new person. Being at home so much, it's like, this might again be a no-brainer, but I notice my days are so much better when I actually put makeup on and I do my hair. And it seems ridiculous, but if you think about almost like the energy that you're putting into yourself, I feel like that also creates like a different energy of people putting value into you. And that doesn't mean that your looks create value and that you're valuable because of your looks, but I think just the act of taking care of yourself, the act of like doing your makeup, the act of being intentional with what you're putting on your body, I just think as humans, that's how we're taught to respect people. And that's not in a good or bad way. That doesn't have anything to do with the features God has given you. That has to do with like, I'm talking solely putting on makeup or at least, like doing something to brighten up your face. And that sounds so toxic. I'm not saying you need to wear makeup, okay? Do not take that the wrong way. For those of you that feel more comfortable wearing makeup, I think it makes a big difference. And I think doing your hair, again, it makes a big difference just in how you treat yourself and how other people treat you. Again, not saying that's a good or bad thing, not saying you need to look perfect all the time. I just noticed for me, it makes a big difference when I feel confident. I notice I'm much more likely to like FaceTime people or even do like a reel on Instagram. Not that that is super deep and by any means, but that's a way for me to connect with people. Like, so I notice I connect more with people if I feel good about myself. And that's just how I personally have been feeling good about myself. I hope you don't take that the wrong way. That is not saying you need to do that. For me, again, lessons I have learned, things that have helped me. I think with that too, is I noticed I rarely put on jeans and I rarely put on cute clothes, but even this last weekend where I put on jeans and I put on like a black tube top and did my makeup, like I just felt better about myself. Like it's just a difference. And I think what I'm trying to get at there is that it's just different from my normal day today. I don't do that every single day. So when I do it, like you just feel good about yourself and you just feel different in a good way. And that's at least what I have realized for myself. Hopefully you can relate. If you don't come for me. I'm so sorry if I offended you with that. You don't need makeup. Just saying it makes me feel better when I put it on personally. Okay. Number 4, this is going to be controversial and it's kind of a joke, but it's kind of not a joke, is that men should not have the ability to talk to women about weight loss or their diet. Okay. And this is very generalized. This is not attacking men. For any male listeners out there, I love you. But I have noticed a common thread. And a common thread is that if you go to a male doctor as a woman, they will typically say, if you say, oh, I'm just having a hard time losing weight, they'll say, oh, well, it's your hormones. Just try to eat like 200 calories less than usual. Come on, right? Like, that's not seriously the nutrition advice we are still giving. It's ridiculous. It's not acceptable in any sense to say, just eat less. And because they probably have not asked in in-depth detail about what you're doing to support your body day to day, right? Probably didn't ask about your stress, probably didn't ask if you're actually exercising, because if you're exercising and trying to build muscle, you should not be in any deficit. You should be eating for maintenance, right? Not saying a deficit isn't needed sometimes, but I'm saying sometimes your body needs the energy you're giving it. They probably also didn't ask what your baseline calorie intake was anyway, right? If you have been only eating 1,400 calories a day, or there is somebody I talked to, potential client, who is eating maybe 100 to 150 calories a day, seems impossible, but it's not. And then gorging in the evenings, like, okay, so maybe 900 calories a day. For you to take off another 200 calories is not sustainable, is not healthy, is not great for your metabolic health, which is probably why you have a hard time losing weight in the first place. And when I hear that, and when clients come to me with that, it really just fills me with a different type of rage. And I might be getting a little unhinged here, but it truly just upsets me, because as somebody who actively, and this is not saying I'm doing everything right, but I actively try to be so aware of how I'm communicating with clients when it comes to their weight, when it comes to talking about food, when it comes to their relationship with food, when it comes to how they nourish their body. I am so delicate with that conversation, right? I approach it in a way that I know feels comfortable for that client, for that person. I don't do it just, oh yeah, well, maybe you just need to eat less and move your body more. Nobody wants to hear that. Even if that is the reality of the situation, nobody wants to hear it. And I think there are so many different ways that you could deliver that information than just saying, eat 200 calories less, right? And, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to just blame it on your hormones, because for women, it's so much easier just to say it's a hormonal problem than to actually do something about the problem, right? Because when you hit 50, when you hit upper 40s to 60s, we're just going to blame it all on your hormones. Everything you're going through, blame it on your hormones. And that's just an umbrella term that we're going to use so we don't actually have to look at what's going on. And that irks me. And that is something I've heard so much this month from a variety of people. And it really, really just irks me. And I think that is why it is so crucial that people let holistic health coaches, nutritionists into these Western medicine spaces. And I truly pray that we see so much more of that. Even when I, talk to my dad about, whatever he's going through, I shouldn't even talk about that. But when I talk to him about that environment, it's like, do they have a nutritionist on staff to talk to you about what is going on? What can improve this? No, they don't. And I think that is so frustrating. And that's something that actually was really cool to hear in the group program that I wrapped up this last week is these gals, I was asking them, I'm like, in 8 weeks, do you really feel like when you started, you believed that food could make a big difference in how you were feeling? And I got a lot of head shakes like, no. And one gal even said, if my daughter wouldn't have recommended working with you because you knew what you were talking about, I would have never paid the money to do this. But she was so grateful she did because she noticed a decrease in swelling in her face. She noticed like that lump in her throat when she was stressed was gone. Like so many things happen when food is the focus. People, I could scream it from the rooftops. And if you don't believe it, I encourage you to work with somebody that will make you believe it and invest in it because it is so, so valuable. And having people like what I'm doing, like with what the girls I'm in like a mastermind with, what they're doing, having anyone like that in that space is going to make a huge, huge difference. And I just hope and pray that that is something we see more often, especially in Nebraska. We are kind of the last people to evolve to that point. And I think the clinics that are getting ahead of the curve are going to notice an influx in interest because when you get online in more of like a Midwestern state and you search functional medicine doctors, those people are so overbooked, they can't see you for months. Now, that's not to say your doctor, your general doctor isn't booked, but those clinics I think would notice such an influx in success rates too if they were able to offer somebody that was looking at the big picture, looking at your full body, really paying attention to that because it's not just hormonal. It's not just that you need to eat less and exercise more. There could truly be something going on and we have to look at you as a whole to figure out what that is. So that's not to say that just men fall into this category, but I feel like they maybe don't always deliver the news the best. And that kind of goes back to your masculine and your feminine energy, which I know we've dived a little bit into, but having somebody with more feminine energy typically relates better to someone who is female, right? Mothers are comforters. Mothers understand. They listen. They don't just tell you the cold, hard facts and expect you to deal with it in most cases. So had to throw that one in there because it's just come up so much recently. Number 5 is the inability to lose weight isn't always because you're doing something wrong. There could be an underlying fungal issue. It might not just be hormonal related. I put these two together because they kind of bounce off of each other. This is something I actually learned within the last week. I have always told clients, not always, for the most part, if clients are having a difficult time losing weight, I'll say it probably is due to your metabolism or there could be something with your hormones. Okay, so hypothyroidism, we use that a lot. We use the term PCOS a lot. I don't love giving a diagnosis, which is why I don't, but you could be having symptoms of those diagnoses. So what we now know and what I now know, which I'm sure people have known for a long time, but I didn't, is that fungus can contribute to an inability to lose weight. So can a yeast overgrowth, which would be more bacterial, right? And I'm not going to dive too much into this because I feel like it is so person to person specific, something you can see with blood work, what's going on, but really just knowing that created like a new sense of excitement around that for me. And I think people that have been struggling with weight loss or inability to lose weight for a long time, there's always just one common answer, and that's hormones. To be able to maybe offer a different perspective is just really exciting for me. And that's something that I notice continuously comes up with the gals that I talk to about what we do, right, with coaching, it's like we seem to all have clients where like they're doing everything right. They've made so many positive changes. Like, why is their weight not fluctuating? And it's frustrating because I want to do everything I have in my power to do to help you, but it's difficult because understanding what's going on is difficult. And unless you have lab work done, it's really, really hard to know. So learning that, and I learned that through the course I was taking, blew my mind, and I'm definitely going to dive much more into that as well in the future. Okay, number 6, having a community to support you is crucial. We all need to find our third place. I mentioned I recently joined a masterclass with 5 other girls, and we are all basically in the same space, but living in very different states and in different stages of life and different stages of business. And it's just really so fun to have a group of people that genuinely want to see you succeed and support you. There just feels to be like no competition, nobody trying to like snag clients from other people. And you don't hear a lot of that in the holistic health space because I think we all care so deeply about people in a whole that in most cases, they're not like conniving or manipulative or trying to rip you off. I have worked with one. I had a coach and she was all of the above. Nonetheless, I've met great people through doing that program anyway. And actually one of them is in this mastermind right now. So there's good things that can come from any of it, but having a community is so valuable. And also sharing what's going on. So this is kind of tying into number 7, but share the exciting news you have with the people around you because it's not self-centered and they truly do want to know. I would want to know exciting news from my friends. So you have to think that your friends, the people closest to you, want to hear exciting things that are happening for you. And I think we so often don't want to talk about ourselves, or when we do, we're like, okay, yeah, I need to quickly get this out so then I can just shut up and stop talking about myself. But like actually getting deep with people and opening up about what is going well, what isn't going well, but being excited and eager to share things with people. I just think that is something I've felt more recently, and it's been fun to just feel supported by people around me and not feel, I don't know, judged or self-conscious about sharing it, and to just be celebrated. Like, I think that's fun, and that's what I would want all my friends to feel as well. If they had exciting news, I would want to be able to celebrate them and share in that excitement. So share with the people you love what's going well because they do want to hear it. Think about, in your perspective, if you are a truly good friend, you'd also want to hear the exciting things happening for them. All right. When I was also mentioning that, I feel like this episode is just a little bit too IRL of how I actually am. But Nathan, I was asking my husband, Nathan, I'm like, what do I put? Like, what have I learned about people in the last month? And he's like, people suck. People suck and your husband's amazing. And yes, my husband is amazing. And people sometimes do suck. And I think something that I have just learned is that you have to bless them and release them. And sounds so corny, but I feel like I deal with a lot of different personalities on a day-to-day basis, get my hopes up for a lot of things, and then get like ghosted by people or just kind of almost disrespected. And it's just something you have to bless them and release them and not let it weigh you down because there's way too many people out there that need what you have to offer. They need your friendship. They need that relationship with you, and it's not worth investing your time in people that don't appreciate it. And I hope that also is a huge takeaway from today's episode for you because it's taken me a long time to learn that and to truly be at peace with not needing everybody to always love me. That's really a hard pill to swallow. Okay, so now moving on to number 8, putting your feet in the grass is underrated and not done often enough. There was one day I had felt so ill, and so I ate lunch with my feet in the grass, and I truly immediately felt better. And this is where that grounding piece comes in. There's an energy in the earth. Getting your feet to touch grass, like it truly can change the energy composition in your body. I don't know all the science to it. That's something, the more spiritual, energetic realm, I don't know a lot about. I really should have somebody on to talk about that because it feels so foreign to me to think about energy. I mean, it makes sense, right? That there's energy in everything. And that's also tying me into number 9, which is when you're really grounded. And I learned this from a friend recently. When you are really grounded, so meaning when you've put your feet, in the grass, you've walked around barefoot, you can sense if something is going to serve you based off of the energetic response that your body has to it. So she tested this. She had an essential oil and she held it. She's like, I know I'm pretty grounded because I usually don't wear shoes. And she's like, if you fall backwards, it's a sign that your body does not need that. So she had asked herself, like, does my body need this lavender essential oil? And she fell backwards. Okay, so then you think about something else of like holding a supplement in your hand. You're like, okay, does my body need 2 of these beef liver supplements today? And if it's a yes, your body's going to rock side to side. That is something, again, I can't explain the science. I don't know the science. I tried it for myself. Seemed to work pretty darn well. And I think that is just where that intuition comes in. And when we learn to be intuitive, I notice that just with like the cravings that I have, or, you know, like if you think about you've worked out or you've maybe had a very stressful day, your body's craving probably either something salty or sweet. So then also identifying like, well, what do those cravings mean? And there's very key things that can lead you to, and then it leads you to like, well, what you need to drink or what you need to consume based off of those cravings. And that's something that I talk to clients about, and I'm always trying to tell them like, be intuitive. Your body is communicating with you. And I think the issue with being on so many different electronics throughout the day is that we're so disconnected from our body. Like our body is actively trying to talk to you. And when you listen to it, you realize that there's so many things you could have picked on way sooner if you would have just listened, right? And if you notice, sometimes you feel even like that gut reaction, like you feel something in your gut, you're like, yeah, something doesn't feel quite right, but you continue to persist on and do it anyway. And it typically doesn't go very well. Why? Because intuitively your body was saying, hey, hazard, no, this isn't good. This person isn't good. There's a reason you're feeling like negative towards them, or your body doesn't want to be around them. It's that intuition. And that is so fascinating to me. I had a client actually recently recommend a book to me. I need to ask her what the title was. I believe it was in Spanish. So I need to find like an audio or an English version of it, but it was talking about energetics and the energy of everything around us. Because I think that mixed with like religion and spiritual things, that's where it gets very like, it gets weird. Like when science kind of like overlaps religion and religion overlaps science, like it draws a big question mark for me. So that's something I need to dive more into. Maybe that's what I will spend. Oh, I've got too many things planned the next couple months, but maybe that is what I will spend this winter focusing on, is energetics and how your body is actually responding to that intuitive feeling. All right, moving on to our final one, number 10. Sometimes you have to slow down to speed up. And if you take anything away from today's episode, I truly hope this is it. My mentor actually shared this with me, and I was reflecting on this last month, and I was thinking about how I did slow down, yes, but the momentum that I feel right now is unparalleled to anything else. Like I can feel things building up. I can feel things picking up, and that's that energy, right? I slowed down, yes, but it wasn't wasted time. It wasn't slowing down just to like slough off and sleep all the day. It was slowing down to expand what I know and grow and learn, so that when this next month came, I could enter it with this energy. And I think energy just translates, right? And so feeling excited about something, it truly is just so unmatched. Like I love being excited about things happening in my life. And so slowing down to speed up, such a valuable takeaway. Along with that too is just being intentional with your time, right? That's something you don't get back, and they tell you that all the time. But when you really think about it, think about those interactions you have with people. Are you on your phone when you're talking to them? Are you working your life away or checking your email at 9:00 at night rather than sitting and talking to your spouse? You know, it's just like those little things. Are you being present, and are you valuing your time? Because you do not get it back. That's where I think setting like 90-day, 60-day, and 30-day goals is really important for holding yourself accountable in whatever it is you want to accomplish, right? That could be personal, could be work-related, spiritual, mentally. Have those goals in mind and work your way through them, okay? And I think just a kind of a question to ask yourself to take away from today's episode is, does what I'm doing right now align with the version of myself I want to be? Most people will not actually tackle that question because it feels uncomfy, and it might require change, and it might require growth, and it might require stepping away from certain situations that aren't really benefiting you. And being honest with ourselves in that is so uncomfy. And I know we typically don't want to do that. But when I was on a call this week, one of the gals had mentioned that when she made the decision to take coaching full time, she had asked herself of like, does my current work environment align with the person that I want to be, or the version of myself I want to be? And I'm like, wow. Yeah, I think that is something we just don't ask ourselves enough, because we get so used to just the mundane day-to-day life. We accept things, and maybe circumstantially we can't change things. Not everybody can quit their job and start their own business. Not everybody can maybe get to a level of success in their job they want overnight. Maybe right now you're working so much that you don't have time to pursue a hobby that you know would fulfill that piece of you. Whatever it is, I just really want you to sit down with that question and think about it. And think about, like, 30 days from now, what minor change could I make? 60 days from now, what would that minor change then evolve to? 90 days from then, like, what would that change become? And asking yourself real questions and not just ignoring your feelings, because your body knows. You were born with an intuition to know, and tapping more into that has been a huge game changer for me, and I would just encourage you to do the same. All right? Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and just close today's episode in prayer. So dear Lord, just thank you so much for whoever is listening to today's episode. I just ask that as they leave this episode, they are just really, it's just put on their heart to think about what it is that they need right now. What is it their body needs? What is it that their mind needs? What is it that their spirit needs? And that they just are able to really have that internal reflection, and that they're given the time and the space to just be with themselves and be present with themselves. Lord, I just thank you for the cool weather and just the changing of seasons, and that we just get to experience that. But I also pray for the sadness and those who are feeling so heavy right now. There's been so much death and sadness and grief recently, and I just ask for comfort around those people and those who are really struggling with those emotions, and knowing how to handle those emotions, that you just take that weight off their chests and they just feel like a big hug this entire time as they just try to navigate that change in maybe life, or that change in life without that person, and that they feel comforted by you. And just pray for those who are also healing, and that they just don't give up on themselves or on their bodies, and that they just keep pushing through and keep looking at their body like a tool to rebuild, and that they just continue to advocate for themselves and push through what it is they're going through, and also with that spend the time needed to rest. And I just ask that as we get into this week and this weekend, that we're all just given a big deep breath and the rest that we need. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. So if you're interested in following along with my life outside of the podcast, you can find me at Nourish with Bailey on Instagram, TikTok, which I'm not really on, Lemonade, which I'm not really on, but you can find me about anywhere at that name. Otherwise, Bailey Seaton, and you'll find me anywhere else. My email is also in the description of today's episode, so if you'd like to get connected with me, of course, you can always reach out that way too. All right, so with that, I will talk to you again next Wednesday. Bye.